Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to all three channels, Evolutionary, EEARTS, and the newest, Heart's Home. We're looking over here, and we see since December 1st, Lake Oroville's storage has increased approximately 178 feet, gained 1.66 million acre-feet of water. DWR continues to closely monitor lake levels, weather forecasts, mountain snow levels with continued wet weather on the way. Yeah, it's just swinging. The pendulum swings from one side to the other, one extreme to the other, just like the political situation. And you got 16 million people across central and northern California under flood watches early Wednesday. Now, some California residents are urged to prepare 2 weeks of essentials, ahead of this situation. Again, we were warned years ago, 2019, 2018, to be ready for 6 months without the grid, just in case. This is like, that was before, the plague upon the land and all the chaos that has ensued. It's just par for the course these days, guys. We gotta be as prepared as possible as we go through all the craziness. And the atmospheric river is going to bring heavy precipitation and potential flooding to California. We've done videos. They were timed pretty well, I think, talking about the 1861, 1862 Great Flood that literally filled up, the Central Valley area. And, the 16-day forecast is showing a lot of precipitation. We have absolute record snowpack. We have people being rescued all the time, snowed in, can't get out. Yeah, and then it's all going to melt at some point in time. And there's a lot of weight here, as we're saying. There have been studies shown that show for sure this affects the potential for increased earthquake activity.
Right, and that's really definitely a real legitimate concern, and it doesn't look like the weather is letting up. It looks like things are just getting worse and worse, so we all definitely need to have a plan right now.
The Bay Area is preparing for heavy precipitation, potential flooding, as that atmospheric river is set to make landfall in California later this week. Forecast models predicting that the incoming AR will reach an AR4 ranking in the Bay Area with an 80% chance of being at least an AR3. So this is the scale of 1 to 5. So in other words, be prepared, be aware, never take chances when it comes to trying to cross a raging torrent of water. You have at least 15 killed, 50 missing after a large landslide hits an island in Indonesia. Indonesia gets everything. This is not the place to be for these times, really. But then again, you're born where you're born. And we get into a lot of in-depth on that over at Heart's Home. And we have touched on these type of things too, as we do actually choose our parents and decide to come into particular areas. In many cases, you might come into a place that is going to be at the epicenter of the earth changes in order to hold the light and to help others.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We always have to look at where we're at and understand that we're put there for a reason, a very sacred reason, especially if you're awake and you're one who listens to these videos. You're definitely a light anchor.
Weather system produces more than 880,000. That's an interesting number. Yeah. 8 is eternity, right? Lightning strikes over the Tasman Sea, moving towards the South Island of New Zealand. Pretty potent weather system. And the weather system's forecast to move over New Zealand from the 8th to the 10th. Heavy rain for the west of the South Island. Wednesday and Thursday, eastern areas are expected to receive just a scattering of rain along with warm northwesterlies. I was thinking about including again, then I didn't because we had touched on it before. We had touched on the fact that Japan apparently discovered like 7,000 islands that they didn't have before, or at least that they didn't count before. And on Sputnik this morning, I'll just pull it up real quick. It was interesting because they actually brought up the point, let's see if I can find it here, that some of the islands, here it is, could be the result of increased volcanic activity. Now that's huge. Japan, again, they're adding 7,000 islands to the official list of land holdings. According to previous data, there were a total of 6,852 islands, of which only 260 were inhabited. Now, new analysis using aerial photographs, existing maps, and other data revealed a total of 14,125. That's huge. You're talking they more than doubled. Why? And so they say, well, technology is so much better now, and we can tell, okay, that's two separate islands when we look at it from this angle. Yeah, but then they go, in addition, volcanic eruptions have also contributed to the formation of new islands. Yeah, doubling the size of Japan. Didn't Edgar Casey say that Japan was going to go into the sea? He did, didn't he? Yeah, he did. And talking about the sea, this is Brazil. As you can see, Brazil heavily flooded. And it was interesting, too, because there's some people saying that the carnival that they had there, which was very, very dark and all full of red and black colors, it seems like 46 would want to go make a speech there, if you know what I mean. They were blaming it on that energy that was given off there. Ecuador, fatalities after floods and landslides in Manabi province. This is something we're seeing all over the place, and it gets you really thinking about how quickly things can change. And we're going to put together, hopefully today we'll get it up, if not tomorrow, a real interesting thing we discovered concerning mounds and the mound builders, and in some areas that I didn't realize there was so many of them. We have a bunch of new books just in case when the power goes out. And I was glancing at some, and it goes like state by state, territory by territory, with all the different giant bodies that have been dug up over the years, and all the different areas where there's been these mounds, these mysterious mounds built. It's like everywhere, especially in the Americas. Again, the Americas it feels like the center point of a certain society that is just washed away from our history.
Mm-hmm. I know. For me, it feels like there is so much over here that is covered up. It feels like we're really, I don't think we're stunted as far as knowledge is concerned, but it really seems like they keep a lot of things hidden over here.
Oh, it's been wiped clean. It's been buried. However you want to put it. It's important stuff that they don't want coming out. Over in Ghana, we see, again, same scenario. Massive floods, heavy damage. Everywhere we look, it seems at this point in time, we are getting saturated. It seems like the drought situation in many areas is totally gone. Of course, there still are some areas that are under drought, but the flooding situation seems to be increasing quickly. 8 dead, thousands displaced, and this is in Zambia's capital. So we can see this is clearly global. It's all over the place. Heavy snow hits London. The UK suffers negative 14 Celsius, which is 6.8 Fahrenheit. Northern Hemisphere snow mass sitting at 300 gigatons above the 1982 to 2012 average. Well above. And yet they're trying to sell us of global warming. Come on. Like the guides have said, we're not going to see an ice age in our lifetimes. We are technically in still an interglacial period. Not that we're not going to see the day after tomorrow scenario, but it's going to tend to get colder overall.
Mm-hmm. Right. They've been telling us that for quite some time now. I know a lot of times when we're watching YouTube, it looks like something is going to happen any moment and we're going to be pummeled by some sort of weird weather phenomena. But what we have gotten is it's going to be a lot slower than what is being put out there.
But just think about what we're seeing. Can you imagine seeing what we're seeing, ever increasing, and that going on for decades and decades and decades and decades? Again, though, there is a split. Humanity is going through a split right now. And this is really the time period where you're going to have people going into the smart cities or the freedom cities or whatever they're going to call them. And then you're going to have other people that learn to live more off the land. You're going to have a lot of people that are trying to put their feet in both worlds, as they don't want to give up all the creature comforts that we have in this, modern society, but at the same time, they don't want to give up their freedom. So that's the tricky part, the ones that are going to straddle both worlds.
Definitely. It's just something that's it's on its way.
And yet we see more and more volcanoes coming online, more and more activity, increased seismic activity beneath Tanaga volcano in Alaska. This is the second largest up there in the Aleutians, and this is why fruit and veggies shelves in the European supermarkets are partially empty. Well, there's several different things going on. You have Almeria, southern Spain. That's where most of the European goods come from. First it was too warm, then too cold, resulting in massive crop failures. Some major greenhouses in Holland experienced a complete crop failure because of high energy prices. Imagine that. Third, that leaves North Africa. The problems there too. Flooding, cold temperatures, and canceled ferries have caused significant problems for Morocco's fruits and veggies. And then David at Adapt 2030, he covers, he was talking about sub-Saharan Africa and the new center of food production that's going to be developing. And the fact, again, who's there? Well, China's all over that. China and Russia, everything is shifting. The whole center point of the global power structure is shifting. But at the same time, nothing really changes at the same time. So nowhere in the world are the yields of many type of vegetables as high as here. This is an article from Holland's Greenhouses. They talk about harvests of 35 to 40 kilograms of green peppers per square meter. That's amazing production. That's about 5 times as much as farmers in the Almeria region can produce, the center of Spanish vegetable cultivation. But the Dutch greenhouse miracle has a weak point. It eats enormous amounts of energy, above all gas. But here you go. We talked about this before. The gentleman in Nebraska, the old guy, he's probably 90 if he's still around now. What do? Dig. It's that simple. Dig. Put the greenhouses 5 to 6 feet below the ground, because the earth naturally regulates the temperature. And then you cover over the top, and you basically put a wall of earthen material on the north and on the east and the west, leave the south fully exposed with glass, and there you go. I mean, it's not really, it doesn't take a brilliant person. You don't need a Tesla to understand these things, but they just don't do them.
No, I mean, it's as simple as looking to nature. Whenever you need an answer, it's the simplicity aspect of Mother Nature that gives us our answers. And I really like that. If we can just learn to realize that she is a living being and this is how she adjusts and readjusts, and we copy that, then we're really in more of a place where we're blending with her.
Yeah, and we've talked about this guy before, and here's a little video. I mean, it's just that simple. You could do this all around the globe. Geothermal. It's so simple. There's a video here. I'll make sure to give you guys the link. He's growing better citrus in Nebraska than they can grow in Florida. Hello. Again, we don't need to be limited. They just don't want this going on. And we have too much of this going on. nice little kayak trip in Florida, and again, runoff and pollution, just killing off fish left and right, all sorts of, sea life. This is hitting me like maybe the St. Johns River. I'm not sure exactly where. But again, all the toxic runoff, it's just absolutely sick and disgusting, and the system has to change. Did you know there was a beer flood in London in 1814? Literally, it was a flood of beer. This led to many people literally drowning in beer because as you can see, there was gigantic vats that just They busted. It led to 14 foot high river of beer that flooded on down. 3,500 barrels of brown porter ale. That used to be a favorite of mine, by the way. Neil, if you're listening, I remember a lot of brown porter with my buddy Neil. Yeah, we don't drink anymore. But, hey, those were the days, my friends. Absolutely. So one of the iron rings on the vat failed. It literally caused a flood 13 to 14 feet deep. People were drinking so much beer because it was all out there for free that there were a lot of people that died of alcohol toxicity because they just couldn't get enough. I mean, we kid you not. We kid you not.
Yeah, that's really horrible. That is hitting the body with a whole lot of poison. And I think in these times, we really need to decipher really well, how much of this is poison and how much of this is good for me, but never, never, never overdo it.
Boy, that looks like the nano stuff, doesn't it? But no, it's a rain of worms in Beijing. That's pretty gross.
That's just really slimy. Ew.
Absolutely. So U.S. military leaked footage of a cylinder UFO dubbed the Baghdad Phantom. And let's listen to what Cindy's opinion. This is it.
So when I took a look at this thing, I saw a whole bunch of little grays in it. And it is AI driven. And they are on their way to a mission. And when it comes to grays, they always do as they're told. That's all they ever do. There's no discernment at all. So they're on a mission, and there is a remote source telling them what to do. So it's very, very creepy. That's what it is.
Yeah, and again, these grays are slaves. They're under the AI spell. They are slaves, and some have even postulated that perhaps the grays are some of humanity from the future that have become part of the draconian AI grid.
I believe it.
Yeah, and so again, some people have said there are certain groups of grays that communicate through certain people. Not all grays are necessarily dark, but me personally, I think there's way more that we've encountered that are under the dark control than not, and in fact don't really know any that are not under the dark control. Not that we know all the grays that are out there, but at the same time, if it is openly saying that they are grays communicating, I would really tread very, very lightly and weigh everything with a grain of salt, because again, who is in control of this sector of our particular galaxy? Well, it's the draconian AI grid on this, 3D, 4D density that we find ourselves on, and they're most definitely not benevolent. They're the ones that control the whole power structure.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can feel them. If you ever get this foreboding type of feeling and there's absolutely no reason for it, you're feeling the vibration of one of these grays that are not so nice. Now, they are all not created the same either, but I've seen what Mike has the understanding of is that more often than not, they're not nice.
More often than not, they're just simply slaves serving the draconian AI agenda, and that's what they want for humanity. But a lot of us are going to go the opposite route, get more in touch with Mother Nature, show respect and love to all her creatures, and reacquaint ourselves with the oneness, the greater oneness of the planet and of the all.
Aw, that's adorable.
That's a cutie. Absolutely. So as always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Much love. Stay prepared. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.